The Holocaust started its rise on January 30th, 1933, when Adolf Hitler was elected Chancellor of Germany and started his climb to the top. He believed that everyone who was not the Aryan race was inferior. Adolf Hitler believed that the Jews were the reasons behind all of Germany's struggles, and so he planned to rid Germany of everyone who was not the Aryan race, and thus the Holocaust began.
Not long after, Hitler started sending Jews into death camps to officially exterminate and contain the Jewish population. He also sent homosexuals, Polish gypsies, Freemasons, Jehovah's Witnesses, and many more. The biggest death camp in which these people were sent to was known as Auschwitz.
The Nazis planned to systematically exterminate all of the Jews of Europe, which resulted in the death of 6 million Jews. Auschwitz became a symbol for the Holocaust because it is the most notorious of all the Nazi death camps. Auschwitz is the site of the largest mass murder in the history of the world. Deaths were by homicide, gas chambers, crematorias, and many more. An estimated 1.3 million victims arrived at Auschwitz between June 1940 and January 1945. Around 1 million people died there. Auschwitz was a small town outside of Poland. The name Auschwitz also refers to 3 separate prison camps, also called Auschwitz I, II, and III, all of which were located just outside the town. The Auschwitz complex was an extermination camp, a labor camp, a transit camp, and a concentration camp, all rolled into one.
Upon the arrival of every camp, all luggage, clothing, gold fillings, shoes, jewelry, glasses, and etc. were separated from the prisoners. Auschwitz I was the original camp serving as the administrative central for the whole complex. It was a Class I concentration camp, which was opened in June 1940 in the barracks of a former Polish army garrison. The prisoners were mostly non-Jewish political prisoners, but Jews were also imprisoned there. Upon the arrival, men and women were separated, and children normally went with the women. If you were too old, too young, or too sick to work, you were immediately sent to your death in a gas chamber. Like most other concentration camps, Auschwitz I had a gas chamber and a crematorium. Initially, the SS constructed an improvised gas chamber in the basement of the prison block. Later, a larger permanent gas chamber was constructed as part of the original crematorium in a separate building outside the prisoners' compound. At Auschwitz I, physicians carried out medical experiments in the hospital. They participated actively in carrying out Nazi extermination plans. SS physicians conducted criminal medical experiments on prisoners and committed other acts that violated medical ethics.
Concentrations of Auschwitz-Birkenau began in October of 1941. Of the 3 camps established in Poland, the Auschwitz-Birkenau camp had the largest prisoner population. Trains arrived here often with transports from virtually every country in Europe that was occupied or allied with the Nazis. These transports came and went from 1942 to the end of summer in 1944. Approximately 1.1 million Jews were deported to Auschwitz, and 200,000 others, including about 140,000 to 150,000 non-Jewish Poles and 15,000 Soviet prisoners of war. The camp was divided into more than a dozen sections separated by electric barbed wire fences. In the summer and autumn of 1941, Zyklon B was used in gas chambers as a means of extermination. 2 farmhouses were converted for the use of gas chambers. Provisional Gas Chamber No. 1 was established in January 1942 but was later dismantled, and Provisional Gas Chamber No. 2 was established in June 1942 but was dismantled in the fall of 1944. Both gas chambers were dismantled because they were deemed inadequate for the scale of gassing that the Nazis had planned for. 4 crematorium buildings were built between March and June 1943 that replaced these provisional gas chambers. They were made up of 3 components: a disrobing area, a large gas chamber, and a crematorium oven. The SS continued gassing at Birkenau until November 1944. At least 960,000 Jews were killed at Auschwitz-Birkenau, 74,000 Poles, 15,000 Soviet prisoners of war, and 10,000 to 15,000 members of other nationalities.
Auschwitz III was founded on October 1942. It was the site of all labor camps. It was established factory as a concentrated camp to produce synthetic rubber and fuels. Auschwitz was a major symbol for the Holocaust, and it was one of the worst extermination camps. The Soviets liberated Auschwitz in January 1945.
finally, after 3 days, we arrived to a town, Oswiecim, Auschwitz. We knew nothing, absolutely nothing. It meant nothing to us. And some people who looked like from an insane asylum got onto the cars, out, and started pushing, take everything, leave everything here, you'll get it back, out. We found out afterwards they were Jewish prisoners, but they looked like people from an insane asylum with striped pajamas. And we didn't know about what was happening, and they gave us all kinds of hints which we didn't understand. We didn't know. It says, don't say that you have a twin. Don't say. And give the children to, give babies to the grandmother. And don't carry a baby. Because there was women, 22, 23, carrying a baby. And they knew that carrying a baby will mean straight to the guest chambers. So, and look healthy and walk erect. So we asked them, why? Quiet, go, and so on. So we didn't really know what was happening. They told us all these things, but only afterwards did it make sense. At that time, it didn't make sense. We thought these sort of people are crazy anyway. So how can you listen to them? And then we went to a shower, and we didn't know that the others don't have a shower. We assumed they had the same thing. And
the others meaning
my mother and the children. And anyone else they didn't like. Or young women. By the way, this is again where they used their psychology. They didn't tear babies out of their young mothers' arms. Not at all. Why do we need a rebellion here? Mothers will start crying, won't they? Much easier to gas the mother also with the child. Much easier. They just, you go and take care of your child, of course. Here again, we just simply didn't know and did not believe these people who came up to get us off the wagons, because they did say that we should not keep the children in our arms. But of course, many mothers, I'm sure, would have gone anyway just to be with their child, not knowing where they're going. So we were showered, and the shoes we had, the same shoe, and here again, shoes you cannot start trying on. You cannot walk with shoes which are too small or too big. So isn't it much easier to let you keep your shoes? With dresses, they didn't have to do that, because I got a dress which was up to the floor, wide for an old woman. So what does that make any difference? No. There was an older woman who got a cute little dress, shirt sleeve, who was an older woman, not old, no one was old, but an older woman who was much bigger and heavier and so on. So we exchanged. With shoes, you cannot do that.
This is after the shower.
After the shower. We exchanged, so I had a very nice dress. But no panties, no slip, nothing else, a dress. In your own shoes. So afterwards, people exchanged, people did all kinds of things, because even there we didn't want to. For one thing, I couldn't have walked in that dress, and she couldn't have put it on. So afterwards, they were marching us towards what turned out to be sea lager in Birkenau. And as you're walking, first of all, this Arbeit macht frei, they accomplished a lot by that in the music.
What do you mean?
The Germans, you have those, they have the entrance of Auschwitz says Arbeit macht frei, which means work frees you, makes you free. Well, it made us feel like we are going to work, right? In music, they're not going to start bothering you with music if they mean to kill you. So all these things they accomplished.
Where was the music? Where was the music?
At the entrance. There was an orchestra playing.
You mean as you walked by and were chosen?
Yes, the entrance. So this too, they accomplished what they were after. Mothers could go with their children. So they killed the mother too. Didn't matter. It's much more trouble to talk a mother into giving up a child. And we walked with the music, so they're probably not going to kill us then. Anyway, so we got into big barracks where there were 3 layers of bunk beds, if you can call them. They were huge. 3 layers, and in each layer 12 to 14 people. And they weren't strong enough, so the upper layer fell down on the rest. It was pandemonium. It was awful. So still, it's working, we figured.